Hello and welcome to my first video in this series. If you saw my last series, I'm making the game of Mastermind with jQuery. This is going to be the same thing but with Angular 4 or Angular 2 because it's the line between Angular 2 and Angular 4 is kind of blurry to me. Anywho, yeah, I was going to make something new, but I thought, you know what? What if I make the exact same thing? Because I think that'll illustrate well how your mind has to think differently when you switch from making things in jQuery to making things in Angular. And if you didn't see my first set of videos, that's okay. Let me show you right here what we're going to make. This is a game, you can buy it in the store. It's called Mastermind. One person, they grab 4 pegs and they put them behind this thing right here, and they're hidden colors, and you have to guess what they are. So let's say I guess there's a blue and a green and a yellow and a black. And that's not a good UI right there. And I click it and it gave me a black peg, which means one of my colors was correct and in the right spot. The other 3 didn't even belong there. So let's say that one was the right one. This one belongs here, and there's 2 spots left and only 1 color, so we're going to have double colors. I'll start with that. Well, now we have 2 colors correct. Was it the blue that was correct? Well, if we stick with the blue, then maybe it was 3 of these. Well, if it was the blue and that one, maybe the rest of them were blue too. You are a winner. Okay, so we're going to make, this was made in jQuery. I made this a couple years ago when I first learned how to code in JavaScript. But big boys code in Angular or React. Actually, I don't believe that. I really love coding in jQuery. But this isn't a jQuery thing. This is Angular. So the first thing you need to do is, if you don't have it installed, you need to install Angular. And to install Angular, you need to install Node.js. So I'm going to open up this guy right here. Clear, how do you clear things out? This is just my command line. I'll make it bigger for you guys. I don't want to be on that one. So let's make something called, well, I'm going to type in node, Node-V. And that says, hey, I have version 7.10.0 installed. If it came back to you and says that command didn't make any sense, it's because you don't have Node installed and you need to go install Node. The reason you need to install Node is because it'll also install something called npm. So like when I hit npm-v, I got 4.2.0. So you have to install this to get this. So if you go over to here, where is this? Node.js.org. You download whatever, and it's good. And then, once you've downloaded that, you can npm install Angular. The way that looks like, I'll show you. Well, so this is npm's website. npm, it actually doesn't stand for Node Package Manager. Apparently it stands for Natalie Pimped Monster. But if I refresh that, what will it stand for? Nerdy Poly Millionaires. The story I was told that they tried to make it stand for Node Package Manager, but it was already taken, so they just call it NPM, and you just decide whatever it stands for. But we'll think of Node Package Managers. Switch a package. Angular, in this case, is the package we want to install. So, and this will give you instructions on how to install it. npm install -g Angular. I'm just going to copy and paste that. Command C. I'm going to go back over here and hit Command V. So this is npm is what we just installed. Install -g means global. And the reason I'm going to have to point this out now is because we're going to use another G later that stands for something else. But so globally install the Angular CLI versus install it a different way. This is installing it as a tool I can use. You can also install it as something that your package JSON can use. So I guess we're going to have both here. I really didn't need to install this, and I have the slowest internet connection in the world. So, okay, I'm going to let it do its thing. Okay, so here it's done. It was taking too long, so I just stopped the video and I'm starting recording a new one, and I'll mush these two together. But it installed the software I need, and it actually goes really quick. So now we want to create a new app. So I'm going to put npm new mastermind ng4 and hit enter. Okay, and that's because this says you messed up, because I put npm, put ng, that's for Angular, by the way. Angular. ng stands for Angular. I meant to say ng new, which is make a new Angular application, and we're going to call it, what did I just call it? Mastermind.-ng4. Enter. And successfully installed Git. That's right. If you know what Git is, I hope. If you don't, I'm going to explain it. I'm probably going to put this up on GitHub, as a matter of fact. Successfully initialized Git. So we're going to, after every video, I'm definitely going to back up or commit what I have in Git. And installing packages for tooling via npm. So there's a whole bunch more stuff that it needs to install. A whole bunch more npm packages. And it's going to take a while on my slow internet connection. So I'm going to stop this one, and I'll start again when it's done. All right, that took like 6 minutes. It's 2017, and it took me 6 minutes to do that. It probably took anyone else in the world like 20 seconds. But yeah, it's 2016, and I have like slower than dial-up. Anyway, yeah, it's 2017. It is September 17th. Broncos just played the Cowboys. Broncos won 42-14. That was just extra information. Okay. So I just made something we called it, whatever we called it mastermind something. So I'm going to change into that directory. cd mastermind-ng4. Here we are, and see what this is right here is the Git stuff. I'm on the master branch of Git, and I'm going to commit every time. I'm just going to, if you know how Git works, you can make other branches, but it's just me. So I'm just going to stay on the master branch. But for the most part, just if you don't know what Git is, just ignore what it says right here. It just says I'm in this directory. So let's take a look at what was made in this directory. Well, it made something called README, E2E, node modules, protract, whatever that is, package JSON, and source. We actually want to go into source before we go in. That's where our we're going to do our work. But it made a huge file structure. See source, you see how it's, I don't know, purplish blue. It's another directory. And I put a bunch of files in there. Package JSON is also very important. So I'm going to hit, if I hit A right here, I'm going to start my Atom, which is my text editor. Oops, and you know what? I think it brought me away to a different desktop. No, it didn't, because this was here, but I want to close that. Okay, so let's look at this package JSON thing. This package JSON, it I don't want to be the first to scripts, ng start test breeze. Okay, I'm just thinking. I didn't tell it to not make tests, so we're going to have an extra file or two for tests. But what it made was, it made the application, app.module. This is what we want to look at. This is where we're going to start coding. We are going to add components to this module as we build it. So let's go back to that first picture I had so you understand what a component is. Components are just pieces. Where was it? This. So let's say each one of these guesses you make is a component. And if I wanted to, I could say there's two components to a guess. There's the guess itself, and then there's the grade on the guess. So I can make, so instead of making 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 of these, I just make one component and I tell it to generate itself 9 times. Pardon me. And you can go as modular if you want. I can make each one of these, dink, dink. I can make each one of these a component. Or you could just, or you could not make it a component. I think I'm going to make this one component, and I'm not going to separate out this part and this part into 2 components. So I'm going to make this into a component. But maybe I'll put it into a bigger body. This whole thing right here will be a component that does nothing more than hold these components. I'm going to make this, if you play the actual physical game, there's a tray of little pegs right here. I am going to make this tray a component. And up here where the guess is, there's a button that shows up here. Let's just show you that it shows up again. Remember the bad UI? This is really technically, well, we'll make this one component. So we'll have the guess and the button. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, components aren't necessarily based on like actual physical location, although they very often are. But you might have a component right here that's the same as a component over here, and 3 pages later you have the same component. We're not going to change pages. We're going to be on the same page every time, which means that we're not going to use any of the routing capabilities of Angular. Routing is very cool, and it's your knowledge of Angular will not be complete until you know routing. But we're not going to go into routing in this tutorial because we don't need to. Okay, so let's go back to our command line, and let's go back to our atom. And I want to make some components. Where should I put them? Well, the thing about the CLI, the command line interface, is I'm just going to tell it I want to make a component, and we'll see where it puts it. Okay, so how do I do this? ng space generate new, or actually not new, just component, and that component's going to be called the whole board. We'll have the whole board be one component, and then inside of it we're going to have 3 components, and inside of those we're going to have components. Boom. Okay, it did it. And now let's look over here. Things changed. Here's something called board, but it's inside my app, and I could totally leave it there, but I actually like to have a folder for components. But before I start moving it around, I want to show you in app.modules, when I made a new component, I didn't call it board component, it called it board component, and it put it right here for me. I need to put, if in Angular 2 or Angular, you used to have to physically come in and write inside of your declarations each new component. And you see this import this right here, we would have to put that, we would have to physically do that. It did that for us, which is it's good and bad. It makes you lazy. And if you get too used to it and you want to make a change, you don't know where to look. So just be aware of that's just what happened. I mean, it's great that they do it for you. This is a path, so it knows where to find this. But like I said, I want to put it somewhere else. So I'm going to go to App, and I'm going to say I want a new folder where I'm going to put in all my components. Okay, so here's my components folder right here, but there is nothing in it. So I'm just going to drag this and put that inside of there. And I wanted components to be not inside of app, I want it to be inside of source. So it's a sibling to app. Okay, this turned red. That means something bad. And also this turned red. Basically, the problem is now it doesn't know where to find this component. Well, before, remember, it was in app, and it was saying from app, go to board, which is that thing, but now it has to back out of app. So how do you back out of app? It backs out of app. It goes to components, and then it goes to board, and dang it, okay. When that red line goes away, it's because it found it. It found it where I said. That red line went away. So we just added a component. And in fact, let's go take a look at that component, because it made some HTML for us, and it even said, look, the board works. So if I want to run this, it's going to say the board works. How do I run this? That's the next question. I could just tell you, and I'm going to, but first I want to show you something in package.json, because you can change the way it runs. Okay, if I just go npm start, it's going to run this thing called ngserve. I could just go and type in ngserve, and that's totally fine. Or I could do npm start. So let's just npm start. Please work. And this building thing is it has to build it. It's going to seem annoying at first because like you see what it's doing. It built it. Webpipe is compiled successfully. I really thought it was going to just pop right up. But as you make changes, it does that automatically behind the scenes, so you don't have to go refresh every time. And if you're thinking refresh what, so am I. Localhost 4200 app works, but it was bored. So what is this talking about? I may very easily have something else running on here that says app works. Control C. I'm going to hit this, and I'm going to hit Control C, and that ends it. And how did I run it? I ran it with npm start. I'm going to run it with ngserve. And it's going to do the same thing. And like I just told you, it'll update automatically. But when I did that Control C, I closed down the server. I closed down the server that it was running on. So the big thing we're trying to figure out here is, where is it running? It's running locally, but when you run things locally, it should tell me right here. Command. You can go up here and you can type in localhost like I did before, whatever I had. Localhost, that says love. Love is a good thing, but it says app works. Oh. This is what I wanted to see. But okay, the localhost is this machine. It says make this the server, my laptop, my little Mac. And this is the port. You can have other things running on other ports. Remember we saw it says board works, and now we're saying, well, why does this say app works? There's a good reason for that, and I'm going to show you what it is. Let's go to our app HTML. In fact, let me go to app.modules. I told you everything starts here. This thing says the very first thing you look at is the app component. And here is the app component. The app component says show them the title. If we go back to the app, so this is going to maybe be overwhelming at first. We have an app.component.css, app.component.html, app.component.spec.ts, app.component.ts, app.module.ts. Okay, the rest of our modules, the rest of our components aren't going to have a dot module. Okay, so this is only for the very root. This spec.ts, this is, and look, they already gave us a bunch of code. This is for tests, and we're not going to run any tests. That's for a different day. This is for the HTML, and it just gave us this HTML, and it says call it the title. And you see how I put it in these squigglies? This is what's beautiful about Angular, these squigglies. It's saying take the variable you called title and put it here. And if you're thinking we didn't make a variable called title, you are right, but in the JavaScript file, which is now a TypeScript file, TS instead of JS, they make a variable that says title equals appworks. So you are pulling in this. If I said name, that was supposed to be an M, equals Mike, and I went over to my HTML, instead of saying title, say name. Then when I go over to, come on, this guy, see it says Mike. And notice it changed. I didn't refresh this. It changed automatically. Dang it, there we go again. Okay. One last thing I want to show you before I end this video is how do I make it see this new component I made? Because this new component called board, it sees something called, it has this in there, board works. The way we're going to do that is, let's look at this thing. See how it says selector app dashboard? I'm going to Control C, Command C to copy that. This becomes, and this is one of the magical things, if I go back up to here, it becomes a tag. So dang it. I need to take a cough drop for the next video. You see this, it changed behind the scenes, but what it's doing is it's still saying names, but then it's putting in this tag. And this tag is this chunk of HTML. Now this chunk of HTML can have all kinds of stuff in there. And right now it doesn't, it just has board works. And you see, that's why it says board works. Things will get a lot cooler in the next video. For right now, we were just getting it started. See you in the next one.